We're back to the Total Education Celebrity Show, powered by the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, and Biggest Loser. It's a show, I'm going to tell you, it's a really fun show, and that's why I kind of reached out to Biggest Loser contestants a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago, maybe a year. It seems like a long time, as many people I've talked to. But I met a guy that, we've had a few interviews, and I've learned so much about him. So he said, hey, I want to kind of give you an update on the latest Biggest Loser for our listeners. But we have to learn about our other guest as well, because they're both going to be here. So I have two finalists from the Biggest Loser. First, I want to welcome to the program Mark Cornelison. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing good, Neil. It's good to be back with you, man.
Absolutely. And you want to go ahead and introduce our other contestant finalist that's with you that was part of the big controversy.
Sure. Yeah, we were both together on season 13 of The Biggest Loser, and as things worked out, we ended up basically being roommates, and we've become very, very good friends, and continue to be even though the show's done. So, all the way from Michigan, it's Buddy Shuh, it's a friend of mine.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the old days and the old stomping grounds coming to Michigan and wrestling in Grand Rapids and Detroit and all these different places as a professional wrestler. So I'm very familiar with Michigan, and we definitely have a radio station out in the Detroit area as well. So excited to have you both on the program and talk about specifically how you guys met, the story of that, I guess, being roommates when you first met each other. If it seemed like a great connection, or it's like, oh, I'm more worried about being on a reality show. So I'll ask that question first. Mark, your first time meeting Buddy, what'd you think of him?
I kind of thought he was a jerk, to be honest with you, Neil. He was. We actually met kind of in an elevator at a hotel during the casting process, and I live in Texas. I've been a huge Texas Ranger fan my whole life. Buddy lives near Detroit, so he's a big Tigers fan. And the first words that I ever heard come out of his mouth was trash talk about my Rangers. And so my initial response was not exactly positive. I was kind of hoping this guy didn't make it on the show, to be honest with you.
What about you, Buddy? Or is it just your...
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it was an amazing timing thing because while we were casting, the Detroit Tigers were actually playing the Texas Rangers that night. And so I hop on the elevator, and we weren't really supposed to be talking to the other contestants prior to being cast on the show. So I walk on this elevator, and I see these two guys with Texas Ranger shirts on. I'm like, oh, boy. Like, I work in a church. I'm like, I definitely got to pray for these guys. This is, like, not okay. And I'm like, I decided, you know what, I'm going to violate the rule. And I just casually turn around and I just go, hey, sorry for what's going to happen to your boys tonight. And they're just like looking at me like, oh, you're a jerk. So that's how we met. That was the beginning of a wonderful relationship.
Interesting, I guess, Buddy, especially when the Tigers keep winning more than the Rangers. Even though the Rangers almost made the playoffs this year. So basically, Mark, once that happened, you had no idea casting was going to come up and things like that. But once you figured out that Buddy's going to be your roommate, what was going through your head? Like, oh my gosh, another reality setup so that I blow up or don't make the right decisions in my dieting and things like that, being with somebody maybe I don't like.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because, I mean, you and I have talked, Neil, just about my having been a pastor and kind of how I was going, okay, there's more to this than just going on this show for just losing weight. There had to be more to the story, and I discovered really, really quickly just kind of how God had his hand in my relationship, my friendship with Buddy. And he is also a pastor who lives in Michigan. Over the course of the show, I believe there's only been 6 pastors ever, and 2 of them happened to be on our season, and those 2 ended up basically being roommates. And so Buddy and I very quickly went, you know what, there's something at work here that's feeding both of us as far as our friendship, but also giving us really good motivation for one another to keep plugging along even when the days got hard, and to kind of have somebody else there when our other guys that came with us, when they got sent home, Buddy and I were still there, and we were still able to continue on. So despite how it might have begun in the elevator, very quickly we realized we were very, very alike, and knew that God had his hand on what was going on.
So, buddy, were you surprised when you finally found out Mark was the pastor as well?
Yeah, I mean, what pastor would root for the Rangers? Like, you would think they'd have... No, it was kind of crazy. I'm going, what's going on here? Because after our first workout, you're so tired. I could not even physically sit up in the bed I was in. So me and my brother were in a room at the ranch, and we're back there. And the guy keeps coming over and saying, you can't lay down, you might go unconscious because you're so tired. And the NBC actually comes to us and says, hey, there's one room on the ranch that actually 2 teams have to share. And, buddy, we need you and your brother to move down the hall, and you're going to be one of the only, 4 people only will share, and we need you to be one of them. So we walk down, and we walk in the room, and there's Ranger Boy. I'm like, oh, man. I got to move all my stuff in with this guy. But we start talking, and I said, all right, well, so tell me your background. What's the deal? And he says, well, I used to work retail, and then I really felt like God wanted me to get involved with teaching. From there, I went into youth ministry, very analytical. My oldest son's name is Isaac. And I was stunned. I'm looking at him, and I go, me too. Oh, every word that just came out of your mouth is also true about my life. And it was amazing. I started to get almost dizzy because I'm going, what is this? This is like, it's like it was a meant-to-be moment. And then the very first week of the show, my brother gets voted out, and I'm not left by myself because I already have this friend who is almost like hand wrapped for me.
Wow. So that's I'm sure your conversation with him was a surprise as well, knowing God was definitely working you two meeting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the very first week, me and Mark are sitting there and going, oh, yeah, I don't really know what's going on, but it really feels like something's at work here, like God's placing us together. And so we look at each other, and I look at him, and I go, well, there's no cameras here on the weekends. Do you want to have, like, a get-together, like a little Bible reading, prayer time, devotional time? He goes, yeah, let's do it. So the very first week we were on the ranch, we started a service. It was called Blurch for Biggest Loser Church. And we invited the other contestants, and we started getting together every week, and we had church while we were there on the ranch.
So, Mark, what is the response? I mean, I know that they chose 2 pastors to be in the Biggest Loser competition, but what was the thought when you guys were kind of coordinating a lot of faith events at the ranch? Were they all behind this? Was it something that NBC was fine with, and also the Biggest Loser producers?
Sure, yeah. We would do these on, like Buddy said, on Sundays, and pretty much every single Sunday was a dark day, which meant they didn't have live, or not live, but they didn't have filming that was going to be for show purposes. And so they, we had heard that seasons past had things like this where groups would get together and take time to pray or do something like that. So they were really supportive of it, and I mean didn't ever try to shut it down or anything like that. They just kind of let us do what we needed to do. And the thing about Sundays was that there just weren't a whole lot of people there. There were a few people that were, as far as trainer wise, there were a few staffing people. So it wasn't like it was a typical filming day where there's anywhere from 100 to 150 people running around trying to do stuff. So they were great about it, and I think it ended up being for the better of all of us, not just Buddy and I putting this together, but for all of us, all the contestants during that time.
All right, we're talking to 2 Biggest Loser finalists from season 13, Mark Cornelison and also Buddy Shuh, and we're learning about that they were pastors. We really know Mark's story, and Mark understands this, and Mark set up Buddy coming on, which we really thank, and we're excited about the next segment because we're really going to break down this year's Biggest Loser to give you guys the monthly opportunity to talk about it and see which contestants you feel have what it takes. But Buddy, when you were on the ranch, we knew Mark's whole process. He didn't think he had a chance of winning. He was there just ultimately to get in shape because he needed to lose weight and change his life. What was your reasoning for being on the ranch?
Yeah, so about 6 years prior to going on to the show and everything, my wife and I had a tragedy in our lives where we lost our 5-month-old daughter, passed away.
Oh my.
And yeah, it was kind of a real traumatic time, and I dealt with it like a lot of people do and turned to food. And I in the next 2 years after that, I gained about 100 pounds. And so in 2011, I woke up one day, I was 440 pounds, and I said, man, I have got to make a change. I'm looking over at the couch, and I've got now 2 more beautiful little daughters there. They're 3 and 1 years old at this point. And I'm saying, if I don't do something different, I'm not going to be around in 25 years to walk these girls down the aisle. And so I started trying to lose weight. And so when my brother called me, I said, yeah, I'll take any help. I really don't think we're going to make the show. Like 25 to 50,000 people try out. So I'm going, there's no way we'll make it. But if the door's open, I'll walk through them. And so when I was on the ranch and times were tough and you're on that treadmill and you're just in pain all the time, I really kept going back to my motivation. You got to have like that thing that you can think about to get you through the tough times when you're making a change in your life. And that thing, I would just picture those 2 girls. And I picture them being down the aisle with their dad, and that's really what I went there. I didn't really care about the show. I wasn't a big fan of the show. I only really watched one season, and that was because I knew someone who was on the show. I went because I needed help in my life, and I would take anything anyone would give me.
So, Mark, did you notice that all the contestants were like Buddy or not? Some of them were really out to win the money, not really about their health. What was your thought in of your whole group?
Yeah, it's just kind of the nature, I think, of all the reality shows. I mean, when you put that price tag on there that says, hey, somebody's going to win X amount of dollars, you're going to get people there that's their motivation. I think the difference for us with The Biggest Loser is it's not just, how long can I survive on an island or can I live in a house with a bunch of people like some of the other things that are out there. This is a life or death kind of thing. And so I think that's also probably has a lot to do with where mine and Buddy's relationship and friendship really took off. Is our intentions were exactly the same. We weren't there just to win some money. I mean, we were there because this issue of obesity had taken over our lives, and we needed to deal with that so that we could be better than we were before. And if somehow one of us won money because of it, then great. But that was not the factor that got us there. So definitely there were those there that was their goal was to see if they could win the money, and everybody had to be there for their own reasons. But it was part of my success has to do with the fact that I was able to develop a friendship with a guy like Buddy, who we were going, this is what's really important, and this is what's going to be lasting beyond the show.
All right, so when we get back, a couple more questions, then we're going to get to the prognostication and what's happened so far in the latest Biggest Loser. But basically, I want to find out what was going through Buddy's mind, especially when you guys decided to walk off. Because, again, Mark kind of gave his story. Buddy, you sound like you would be a parallel, comparing you two, it's just you're the same in the same way. Same reasoning to be on the show, same thought process of losing weight, shocked that you were that far into the show, but however, your ultimate reason of doing it was for your health and for God, not like some of the other people. You're listening to the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment on the Total Education Network, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, and again, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. I'm going to have to see if Mark's on LinkedIn as well because I am linking up with a lot of professional athletes. We'll see who's on Mark's contact list. That's the one thing that's nice about LinkedIn for everyone listening. You can connect with anyone. Facebook doesn't allow you to do that, so it's a great networking source. A lot of people forget it. All right, so we're talking again to Mark Cornelison and Buddy Shuh about the Biggest Loser experience. Now, Buddy, you do about the same stuff that Mark did. You got to where you were at, then you heard the news that frustrated you as much as Mark, right?
Yes. We found out that all the contestants were going to come back from our season that had been eliminated for one final week before the final finale.
And why did that frustrate you, Buddy? Because, it's something that they just threw that curve. You thought the hard work that everyone did on the ranch, why would the people that got eliminated be involved in this competition?
Well, certainly there's a couple thoughts I have. In the sense of a competition, it doesn't seem right and fair. It's like to bring someone back in at the very last second with no advance warning doesn't seem right. It's in my mind, it's the equivalent of you're playing a football game and you're up 70-0, and in the last minute, the umps, because they have the right to make a rule change, say, you know what, next touchdown's worth 100. And you're like, well, I don't want to, so I've already beat him. I already won 70-0. So there is that in my mind. But honestly, stronger than that is it's about how you treat people. And I really had a concern for my brother. When we were able to go home, the show sent us home for 18 days to see if we could lose weight on our own. And when I went home, I got to talk to my brother. I said, well, you're glad you went home, or do you wish you were able to stay longer? And he said, no, I am absolutely grateful that I went home. He goes, not only did I not enjoy my experience there, but I had miscalculated how the COBRA insurance works at my job. And if I would have stayed, I would have lost all my health insurance for all 10 of my children. So I'm glad that I got sent home. So now here I am on the ranch saying, gosh, they're making my brother come back. He doesn't want to be back, and he's got 10 children to provide for, and he might lose their health insurance. So I just went to that. I'm like, you can't do this to my brother. And they're like, well, yeah, he signed a contract, and I'm going, okay, but you don't have to, and you know that. So let's just work something out. And basically, at the end of the day, we weren't able to work things out. And so I said, okay, well, I want to stand up for my brother, and they're good with that. They're like, well, if you do that, then you just essentially you lose the right to win money. And I said, I'm okay with that. To let my brother know that I stand up for him, I'm okay with that. Because I've came here and I've done the whole show, and I've got my health, and so I'm willing to do that. And we parted ways really on good terms.
Interesting. So that was another component to this. And Mark, that's something that also frustrated you as well here in the story, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about how similar situation for me was the fact of my son Shuh, and just the way they were handling it. It just wasn't. If you really care about the health and well-being of these people long term, this was not going to be for their health and well-being, and specifically for my son. And so adding to that was knowing what was going on in Ben's life, because Ben and I were around each other, not for as long as Buddy and I were, but he's a friend, and I wanted what was best for him, and him being Buddy's brother as well. It's like we just wanted the show to go, hey, you know what, we value these people, and just like you and I talked about, it just, and I love what Buddy said, because he's exactly right. No matter how it looked, we really left on decent terms. We just basically said, we're okay not to win your money because we got what we came here for. And that made it all worthwhile as far as I'm concerned.
So, Buddy, by leaving, did you break a contract, you and Mark, as well? Were they threatening to sue you if you left and stuff? Any of that process?
No, we didn't break contract. They're very clear. You're not a prisoner there. You at any given time, you're free to go home. And so, but in the contract, there are provisions that, okay, if you do this, then you give up the rights to the money. So we didn't break contract. We were fully within our rights to go home. But by doing it, we forfeited the right to be able to win money. And even at the finale, we were not on stage live. We were in the audience. So those were basically the two ramifications of our actions, but we didn't break contract.
Okay. And the last point is basically they were forcing people to come back. Was it forced, or they didn't have to come back as well?
It
was forced, yes.
Yeah.
My brother had to come back, and he did because they made him.
But they didn't make you quit. That just doesn't make any sense. That's a very strange way of handling things, for sure.
Right. Well, Joe Mitchell on our season also left after the second week. He walked off the show. He didn't wait till the vote.
Joe Messina.
Joe Messina. I'm sorry. Joe Mitchell was the name. Joe Messina. He wound up leaving the show, and they didn't force him to come back either. Basically, they're like, okay, you have exercised your right to leave the show, and by doing so, you forfeit these rights. So I guess the people could have said no, and they would have forfeited the same rights as us, but otherwise they were forced to go back.
Interesting. So people get paid, not just the winner then, Mark, is that correct? Other people make money.
Well, there's an at-home prize as well. So all of the people that had gone home, whoever loses the most weight having been sent home from the show, either getting eliminated or however that works, the one that does the best wins $100,000. So there's a prize for the at-home winner as well, which we, as leaving, we forfeited that as well. And again, we were completely okay with that.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go to updates again. I know you guys still follow The Biggest Loser. Mark, what's your take so far? And then next month we can talk more about it, because I just had to get more of Buddy's story, because it's a very interesting story as well, and your relationship. But Mark, what's going on with The Biggest Loser this season? What have you gathered from watching it?
I'm kind of, it's real interesting, because last season, which was the one following hours that we were on, I just couldn't get into it. It was really kind of hard to watch, to be honest with you. But I've kind of gotten past that and thought, okay, I'm gonna dive in this season. I want to watch season 15, and there's a couple of people that I'm kind of following and watching. And one thing that's real different is they've instituted this thing called a save, which means if each trainer has one time during the season that they can save somebody who has fallen below the red line or has been voted out, whatever they're going to do. So it's going to give the trainers a little more freedom. If there was somebody that they thought, man, they're just not quite done, they get to pull the trigger and say, hey, that person's going to stay for a little while longer. I kind of think that's interesting. I want to see kind of how that goes. Haven't gotten to where that's already one of the trainers has already used that, so we'll see kind of how that works. But it's actually really kind of hard, because typically the episodes are 2 hours long, and this season they're all going to be an hour, and that makes it a little bit harder to get to connect with the people and to really hear the stories and some of that. So I'm kind of just watching to see what that's going to end up doing. I love Buddy, and our trainer was Bill Vett from the show, and I just love watching that dude. It's funny. I watched the last couple of episodes, the first two that have been on, and I can't help but just remember the feelings and emotions and hearing his voice screaming across the gym, and yet also knowing kind of the heart of that guy and how he really, really cared about us and really wanted the best. So it's kind of fun to watch, but they've made some changes, and I'm just interested to see how it's going to shape out.
All right, Buddy, your take so far on it.
Yeah, I'll give you one like and one dislike. I agree with Mark. My dislike is that the show got cut in half, and for the amount of people that they have on there, you can't really get as much story time where they're telling personal stories, which is one of the things I really like. This season, I've really connected with David. Have a similar story where he lost his wife, and then the emotional trauma that followed, he, was kind of struggling with that and struggling with his weight. And so I really identified with that. And I think a lot of people in America identify with the people's stories, and it inspires them. And by cutting it from 2 hours to one, you don't really get as much of that. It's kind of like they got the weigh-in and they've got the challenge. They got to, hit all these things. And so you don't really get to know them as much. So I don't like that as much. What I do love about this season is the theme of second chances. What a great idea. Like, a lot of times when you're overweight, you're sitting at home, and I remember feeling like this so much. Like, gosh, I've tried, I've failed. And there's something in you that goes, I should just quit. And so I love the idea of second chances. No, I believe in the idea of there are new mercies every day. Like, you have to learn to give yourself grace. And if you failed or succeeded yesterday, it does not affect today. Today, get up and you have a second chance. Just go live today like you know you're supposed to. I think a lot of times people make the health thing too hard. They say, I've got 100 pounds to lose, and it's overwhelming, rather than just living healthy today. Like, if you offered someone and said, hey, I'll give you $1 million if you just looked healthy today, people could do it. So it's just a question of motivation and a belief and a hope that they can. And so I love this idea of second chances. Just get back on your feet. You've got a new chance today. Now go out and live.
So I guess, Mark, what you've gathered, you probably like the second chance thing as well. This is a good theme. I mean, it's a good theme, especially when people are down. I mean, Mark, more people are down probably today than when we talked 6 months ago, especially what's happening with certain implementations, people losing their health care, people losing their jobs that they need to, and then they use, again, food to cope as a coping mechanism. Here's your second shot, lose the weight, feel great, and begin again.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just the idea, especially when you're really overweight, it just seems like, just like Buddy's saying, there's really no hope. So this idea that, hey, you can do it, you got another shot, that's huge. That is one thing that I really am a fan of as well. I'm excited to see what that's gonna look like for these contestants and for people, because people really identify with the themes that are really people that are really into the show. They connect with whatever that theme is, and I think this is a good one to inspire Americans and all those that are going to end up watching.
Well, I'm disappointed, and you guys can't. You don't have to make a conversation. Again, I had one of the celebrities from Betty White's Off Your Rocker, and NBC canceled it after it was one of the highest-rated shows, and now it's on Lifetime. If you're cutting it down to an hour, this could be moved somewhere else. And honestly, whoever these people out in L.A. are making these decisions, these production companies, and NBC is. Corporation and their decision making, sometimes it's not the best decision, because I know the ratings are always good for The Biggest Loser. They were very good for certain shows that they cut, and you don't know what the reason is or what the thought process in this whole thing is. So I hope that doesn't mean just because it's going down to an hour that their run is almost over. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I'm sure many other people will pick up this great idea if not. So Mark, where can we find information on you, and then also Buddy, where we can find info as well?
We have, really for both of us, just like you mentioned earlier, I am on LinkedIn and would love to connect with people on there. Buddy and I both have gotten to where we travel and speak quite a bit, and we're always open to come and share with people that want to know more. And whether it's businesses or churches or schools or anything, we're pretty open. So you can look for me on LinkedIn. But we also have a blog that Buddy and I share the writing with. At our website, sweatcore.com, which I've shared with you before, and I'd love for people to go and subscribe and hopefully be encouraged by the things that we're getting to share through that, and also there's other information on the website on how people can connect with us even further as well. So that's the best way.
All right. Well, thanks for calling the program, Mark, and thanks, Buddy. And Mark, we'll talk next month and give us a little bit more of an update. I'll watch the show to be a little bit more into this situation. But once we got to the story of Buddy, that's another story in itself. And thanks for coming by, Buddy. You're welcome to come next month. It's just based on your schedule. But thanks, guys, for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, take care. All right, you're listening to the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.